Welcome back to Power and Politics. We're going to turn our attention south of the border to what U.S. President Donald Trump did today. He announced that places of worship are now deemed essential, and he's ordering state governors to reopen churches, mosques, and synagogues, although it's not clear what authority he's using to do that. Take a listen.
I call upon governors to allow our churches and places of worship to open right now. If there's any question, they're going to have to call me, but they're not going to be successful in that call. These are places that hold our society together and keep our people united. The governors need to do the right thing and allow these very important, essential places of faith to open right now for this weekend. If they don't do it, I will override the governors. In America, we need more prayer, not less.
Let's get some perspective on the potential impact of what the president just said. Aaron Blake is a senior political reporter with the Washington Post. He joins me now from Annandale in Virginia. Hi, Aaron. Great to see you again.
Hey, Vashi.
It's been a while. Can you help lay out for us exactly what's motivating what the president is saying and what the potential impact is?
Well, this has been something the president has been leaning into for a while now. His base obviously is made up in large part of evangelical Christians. They're a very large part of the Republican Party these days, and he's been talking for a very long while, including while he's been talking about reopening the economy more broadly, about places of worship opening up sooner than other parts of the economy and of the country. I think today it was certainly surprising that this came out now, but in the context of what he's been talking about for a long time, if you were to guess at one thing that he would try to, basically open by executive fiat, this would be something that you would think would be in the very early beginnings of that.
Does he have the authority to direct governors to do this?
Well, this has been something that the president has talked about before, rather baselessly, when it comes to reopening the economy. He has suggested that he has the power to do this in a way that governors don't. I think when you talk about places of worship, it's a little bit more complicated because we are talking about the Bill of Rights, the freedom to worship, freedom of religion. So maybe there is an argument to be made there that the federal government or the president could have a little bit more authority in enforcing the ability of people to worship. But generally speaking, this is the territory of governors. This is the territory of states to make these kinds of decisions. So when the president has talked about reopening the economy, it's generally been a lot of hot air. It's generally been something that he needs to rely upon them to do. And I think it's also important to note here that the president basically made this threat. He said, governors, if you don't do this, then I will override you. The White House press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, was asked about this and basically asked what kind of enforcement mechanism the president has at his disposal. And her response was that this was a question. Well, this is a hypothetical that the president himself raised, and now the White House is not making good on the actual threat by saying how they're going to be able to enforce it.
Are any governors responding?
We've seen governors in a number of red states talking about opening places of worship earlier than others. Certainly, this is something that I think many Republican governors will be receptive to. We've had places of worship and faith groups in a number of states already bucking their governors when those governors have sought to prevent places of worship from opening. This has been happening especially in a state like California, in Minnesota. But also, when we talk about places of worship, this is something that the CDC has established in its reports is a very good place where this virus can expand. People are packed tightly. People are handling the same materials, the same Bibles, the same hymnal. And one of the very in this country has been traced to a choir practice in Washington state more than 3 months ago. So I think there is a significant amount of concern that this could lead to a situation like that. But obviously there are people, and especially the president's supporters, who are very much keen on starting this process of opening again.
I was going to say, ask you as my final question, sort of how this fits into, I guess, the political dynamics already at play, where reopening is concerned and the president's messaging on reopening.
Yeah, so, I don't know exactly what the president's motivations are for this, certainly. But again, we cannot distance this too much from who the president's base of support or it is, and that is that the evangelical Christian church in this country is very much, in lockstep with the Republican Party. This is a large portion of the president's base, and it's somebody that he talks about frequently and has for a number of years now. To the extent that he is giving them voice, to the extent that he is doing what they want, he is really speaking to a very, very large chunk of his base. And this is a president that from the very beginning of his presidency has focused like a laser on making sure that he makes the people who supported him most happy. And I think this decision, while potentially dubious when it comes to the law, and maybe governors won't follow suit, this is very much in keeping with everything that the president has stood for over the last few years.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.